document is agreed. We now come to the debate on the situation of local and regional politicians in Turkey. This debate was requested by several delegations of the Congress. The request was discussed by the Congress Bureau and accepted at its February meeting. At its meeting on Monday, 18 March, the Bureau adopted a declaration which will be presented to you for adoption. It was published online immediately after the Bureau meeting, and the deadline for tabling amendments was yesterday at 10 after midday. The immediate reason for this debate is a matter that the Congress has been following with great attention for several years now, the detention of a large number of local and regional elected politicians in Turkey, most of whom have not yet been convicted of any crime. As far as we know, most of these people are now on trial, but the trials themselves are taking years rather than months to reach a judgment, with the result that many of these people have now been in detention for over 3 years. Even if we have focused much of our attention on the case of one particular mayor, our former member, Leyla Güven, the mayor of Viranşehir here, who addressed our debate on this issue back in 2009, just weeks before her arrest. Our concern is in reality much broader than this. Congress members, the Congress Bureau and the Congress as a whole, in its last report on Turkey, have expressed concern about the functioning of local democracy in Turkey, about the effects but such massive detentions and mass trials may have on this. We are not alone in this. This issue are very much being debated in Turkey itself. There are many new initiatives being discussed in Turkey at the moment, constitutional and judicial reform proposals and proposals to radically overhaul the system of self-government. Most of all, there is a new peace process underway, and one where the demands for greater local autonomy and a better application of our Charter are a significant factor. A lot may change in the coming months. There are many signs of hope. However, I have been following Turkey for many years. Until recently, I was the Congress rapporteur on Turkey together with Mr. Knappe, and I can tell you that I can remember more than one occasion where we seemed to be on the verge of the breakthrough to solve the causes of conflict, and for some reasons it didn't work out. So I believe that our debate today is very important and that the Congress is rightly concerned by what is going on and right to assume that it has an important contribution to make. This debate will be conducted as follows. Firstly, a member of the Bureau will present the draft declaration. The debate will then be opened and speakers may ask for the floor by entering their name on the speakers list either before the opening of the sitting or in the course of the sitting. Once the debate is closed, the amendments will be presented and voted on. If adopted, the declaration will become a Congress declaration. I therefore give the floor to Mrs. Amy KOOPMANSCHAP from the Netherlands. She is Vice President of the Congress, who will present the draft declaration on behalf of the Bureau. Mrs. KOOPMANSCHAP, you have the floor.
Mr. Chair, dear members of the Congress, As we agreed in the Bureau meeting in February, we have taken on the task of developing this draft declaration. We built on the previous motion that was prepared in the last session in October 2012 and tried to have a more inclusive process in developing it. We've been in touch with various delegations about the text. Besides, we have consulted Mrs. Gaia Doganoglu, head of the Turkish delegation, and received some constructive comments to develop a stronger and more factual declaration. We have often expressed our concern about continued massive detention and dismissal of locally elected politicians in Turkey, and have particularly discussed the situation of Mrs. Leyla Güven, who is in prison on the ground of an allegation of abetting and membership in a terrorist organization. According to the Council of Europe Progress Report in 2012, in Turkey currently 55 locally elected officials are suspended, alongside several members of municipal and provincial assemblies that were detained. Among the suspended mayors is the elected mayor of Sjoerd, which is a pilot city within a project on participatory governance of the Association of Dutch Municipalities. As has also been concluded in the previous mounting reports on Turkey, this means that elected officials are prevented from fulfilling their duties towards their citizens, and this is gravely debilitating for local democracy. In our declaration, we stressed the progress that has made since the various recommendations from the Congress of the Turkish authorities, particularly the use of Kurdish in trials in Diyarbakir. Also, I wish to express my support for the ongoing efforts to enhance dialogue through the İmralı process. I hope that these positive developments will result in the fact that local elected politicians may freely exercise their duties and responsibilities according to the European Charter on Local Self-Government. Mrs. Güven is a symbol for these challenges in our Congress. A delegation of the Congress had the opportunity of speaking with her in the Diyarbakir prison as part of our work to identify possible violations of the European Charter. Taking into account the principles of the Congress, which are to promote local democracy and human rights, we requested Turkish authorities to facilitate a new visit of the Congress to the prison in Diyarbakir. According to us, this will be the only way of ensuring continuity from the Congress to deal with this matter. I also hope that the Congress will organise a new fact-finding mission to assess the violations of the European Charter on Local Self-Government and take actions to implement the earlier recommendations of the Congress. Colleagues, we expressed our wish not to only look at the situation in Turkey, and I'm happy that the Monitoring Committee accepted the proposal to request the Governance Committee to provide an overview of the countries of all Council of Europe member states in which locally elected politicians are prevented of exercising their power freely, in order to get a better sight on the challenges to lie ahead of us in promoting and safeguarding local democracy. Dear Congress, to conclude, I hope you will support this declaration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Amy KOOPMANSCHAP. The debate is now open. I call Mrs. Sahin from Turkey. Please, you have the floor.
Sayın Başkan, değerli kongre üyeleri, aslında bugün benim yerime kongrenin üyesi Sayın Leyla Güven burada olacaktı. Ama maalesef bugün ben buradayım. Onun da selamlarını sizlere getirdim. Bugüne kadar tutuklu bulunan Sayın Leyla Güven'in durumuna ilişkin kongrenin yapmış olduğu çalışmalar ve yakın ilginiz için çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Ama şu anda sadece Sayın Leyla Güven değil, partimiz Barış ve Demokrasi Partisi'nden 18 belediye başkanı, 14 başkan yardımcısı, 65 belediye meclis üyesi ve birçok il genel meclis üyesi de tutuklu bulunmaktadır ve yargılanmaktadırlar. Benim de başkan yardımcım, 3 tane meclis üyem tutuklu bulunmakta ve yargılanmaktadırlar. Sorunumuz sadece tutuklu olanlar değil, aynı zamanda Diyarbakır Büyükşehir Belediye Başkanımız ve Güneydoğu Anadolu Belediyeler Birliği Başkanı Sayın Osman Baydemir'in örneğinde olduğu gibi bazı belediye başkanlarımızın da yurt dışına çıkış yasakları hala devam etmektedir. Yine benim gibi görevi başında olan belediye başkanlarımız hakkında düşünce ve ifade özgürlüğü kapsamında olan konulardan dolayı birçok dava açılmaya devam etmekte. Bu mesai saatlerimizin bir kısmını mahkeme salonlarında geçirmemiz anlamına gelmektedir. Ayrıca merkeziyetçi sistemden kaynaklı sorunlarımız da var. Mesela belediye meclislerinin aldığı kararlar vali tarafından onaylanmayınca yürürlüğe girememektedir. Ayrıca genel olarak yerel yönetimlerle aktarılan mali kaynakların ve diğer gelirlerin yetersizliği de hizmetleri aksatmaktadır. Yine yerel dillerde yürüttüğümüz hizmetler halen yasal güvenceye kavuşturulamamıştır. Deklarasyonda da belirtildiği gibi son zamanlarda Kürt sorununun çözümü için hükümet ve Sayın Abdullah Öcalan'a yapılan ve İmralı süreci olarak adlandırılan görüşmelerin genel anlamda topluma olumlu yansıması görülmektedir. Yine son günlerde bazı eski ve yeni belediye başkanlarının tahliyeleri, bir kısmının görevlerine iadeleri de söz konusu oldu. Ümit ve temenni ediyoruz ki Sayın Leyla Güven de bunlardan biri olur. Altını çizmek gerekir ki barış sürecinin başarıya ulaşması, yerel yönetim hizmetlerinin daha rahatlıkla yapılmasının önünü de açacaktır. Özcesi barış sürecinin başarıya ulaşması, yerel demokrasiye önemli derecede katkı sunacaktır. Bu sürecin kongre tarafından izlenmesini ve desteklemesini önemli buluyoruz. Saygılarımla.
Ich erteile das Wort Herrn Ibrahimov aus Aserbaidschan.
Спасибо, господин президент. Я, как член Конгресса, уже довольно давно внимательно слежу так называемым делом госпожи Гювен. Как член мониторинговой группы Конгресса знаю, как происходила вся процедура. Но у меня, в отличие от многих, есть возможность следить еще ближе ситуацию, так как я живу по соседству, в том регионе, где Турция не является для нас нечто далеким. Я сам свидетель того, как за последние 10-15 лет вся Восточная Анатолия стала символом развития. В то же время мы свидетели, как сильно изменился Турция в целом, как в экономическом, так и политическом понимании, а изменения чувствуют простые люди. Однозначно реформы турецкого правительства в плане дальнейшей демократизации экономического развития можно охарактеризовать как феноменальные. И на этом фоне, к сожалению, страна имеет проблемы терроризма, которые являются главной угрозой всем этим реформам. Поэтому мы должны быть внимательны, когда поднимая такие вопросы, постараться не испортить общий фон. Во-первых, наш сигнал может быть неправильно оценен такими силами, которые используют терроризм как метод политической борьбы. Во-вторых, не должны подпортить позицию истинных сторонников демократизации и политического диалога. Как я знаю, турецкие органы власти внесли поправки в законодательство, которые позволяют подозреваемым пользоваться родным для себя языком при защите в суде. И они были приняты. Таким образом, госпожа Гювен сможет решить свои проблемы в суде. Так что не стоит, по-моему, технические вопросы внутреннего законодательства превращать в некий политический процесс. Проблемы многих осужденных, подозреваемых, а также обвиняемых не связаны с их профессиональными интересами, а с уголовными делами, среди которых много вопросов поддержки террористов, а также финансовых злоупотреблений, а также коррупции. Я против вовлечения нашего Конгресса в такие тупиковые дискуссии, поэтому я призываю своих коллег к взвешенному отношению при принятии подобных деклараций. Спасибо большое за внимание.
Ich erteile das Wort Herrn Receveur aus der Schweiz.
Monsieur le Président, chers collègues, le Congrès s'est inquiété à de nombreuses reprises ces dernières années de la situation d'élus locaux et régionaux dans l'est de la Turquie, suite à la mise en détention d'un certain nombre d'entre eux qui suscitent des interrogations. La délégation suisse condamne fermement toute forme de terrorisme ou de violence, quelle qu'elle soit, il faut le répéter, notamment en relation avec les déclarations de mon préopinant. Ceci étant précisé, notre délégation doit bien manifester son inquiétude face aux incertitudes qui pèsent sur le sort des élus concernés, et en particulier de notre collègue Leila Guven. Il ne s'agit pas ici de s'immiscer indûment dans les affaires intérieures ou de stigmatiser un État membre, ni de prendre parti dans un différend politique interne. Il nous semble cependant, conforme aux attributions du Congrès, de s'intéresser aux conditions d'exercice de la démocratie locale et régionale, qui n'est pas une notion abstraite, finalement de s'intéresser au sort des élus eux-mêmes, d'autant plus quand ils sont des membres du Congrès. Dans ce sens, nous saluons les progrès sur la question de fond réalisés par la Turquie, qu'on nous signale encore à l'instant. Nous saluons aussi l'ouverture de la délégation turque dans le cadre du dialogue préparatoire relatif à la déclaration qui nous est soumise. Nous la remercions des progrès que ce dossier réalise ainsi avec sa contribution, même s'il subsiste encore 2 points de divergence sur un texte que nous jugeons d'un degré élevé de consensus et auquel nous apporterons notre soutien. Ce que souhaite la délégation suisse, c'est qu'ensemble, avec la Turquie, on puisse apporter toute la lumière nécessaire à une bonne compréhension de la situation de notre collègue et des autres élus locaux et régionaux actuellement détenus. Pour cela, il faut pouvoir se parler, se rendre sur place, rencontrer les gens, les autorités, les personnes concernées pour s'assurer que tous les principes liés à l'état de droit dans cette question sont bel et bien respectés. Nous nous opposerons donc au premier amendement proposant la suppression de l'alinéa 5A. Dans le souci de conserver au texte de la déclaration un caractère équilibré, nous accepterons cependant l'amendement numéro 2 proposé par la délégation turque. La délégation suisse vous invite donc, chers collègues, à apporter votre appui à la déclaration qui nous est soumise cet après-midi.
Ich erteile das Wort Herrn Wagner von Deutschland.
Sehr geehrter Herr Präsident, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren! Leila Güven, ehemaliges Mitglied im KGRE, befindet sich schon seit 3,5 Jahren in Untersuchungshaft. Ihr wird die Mitgliedschaft in der Union der Gemeinschaften Kurdistans vorgeworfen. Das deutsche Auswärtige Amt hat uns mitgeteilt, dass in diesem Verfahren bisher 158 Personen angeklagt wurden. Von diesen 158 Personen befinden sich 97 in Untersuchungshaft, fast alle ohne Anhörung. Vom Büro des Kongresses haben wir 2011 erfahren, dass die Gesamtzahl von Kommunalpolitikern und Menschenrechtsaktivisten in türkischen Gefängnissen sich zurzeit auf über 3.000 Personen belief. Mit dem Bericht heißt es weiter, dass kurdische Bürgermeister Angst und Unsicherheit verspüren bei der Erfüllung ihrer Aufgaben. Viele waren sich nicht sicher, ob sie ihr Amt bis zum Ende der Mandatszeit ausfüllen können. Darüber möchte ich meine Besorgnis zum Ausdruck bringen. Verhafteten Kommunalpolitikern wie Leila Güven wird vorgeworfen, Mitglied einer terroristischen Vereinigung zu sein. In der Regel vertreten Bürgermeister Mehrheiten. Kommunalpolitiker sind Persönlichkeiten, die in der Regel in der Bürgerschaft gut verankert sind. Kommunalpolitiker werden in der Regel gewählt, wenn sie die Interessen ihrer Bürger vertreten und nicht die Interessen von Terroristen. Sie bilden auf kommunaler Ebene die Pluralität der Gesellschaft ab, und ohne Pluralität gibt es keine stabilen Demokratien auf lokaler Ebene. Pluralität, das Zusammenspiel politischer Kräfte und der politische Wettbewerb sind wichtige Bestandteile und Bausteine auf der kommunalen Ebene, und sie werden vom Kongress zu Recht als Grundwerte vertreten. Aufgabe des Kongresses ist es, den Zustand der lokalen Demokratie in seinen Mitgliedstaaten zu beobachten, darüber zu berichten und Empfehlungen abzugeben. Die ständige Vertretung der Türkei beim Europarat kritisiert in einem Schreiben an Generalsekretär Kiefer Anfang des Jahres vehement die Befassung des Kongresses mit dem Fall Güven. In einem Schreiben des Auswärtigen Amtes an den Leiter der deutschen Delegation heißt es, ich zitiere, die anhaltende Befassung des KRG mit der Situation inhaftierter kommunaler und regionaler Mandatsträger in der Türkei leiste einen wichtigen Beitrag. Deshalb appelliere ich an den Kongress, sich weiter und anhaltend mit diesem Thema zu befassen. Und ich bitte den Kongress im Rahmen einer Monitoring-Mission festzustellen, wie der Zustand der lokalen Demokratie heute in der Türkei ist.
Ich erteile das Wort Herrn Verbeek aus den Niederlanden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was one of the members of the delegation that visited Laila Guven last year, and I know the insecure situation she is in right now. I want to speak to you as a Congress, because we as a Congress, we stand for the rules of democracy on regional and local level. And we as members, we should be the utmost example for others. We as members of this Congress, we are a family, and we are devoted to democracy. For some of us, this is a very hard position. It can even bring you in jeopardy or in prison. And in case of our former member, Laila Guven, she is well known to all of you. And I do urge you all to show solidarity expressed by voting in favor of this declaration. And please, please do not support the amendments which undermine the essence of this declaration. Thank you.
Ich erteile das Wort der Frau Vizepräsidentin Toganoglu.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, with this debate today, if the Congress wishes to express its concerns about the lengthy pre-trial detention period in Turkey and to encourage Turkish authorities to take further steps to remedy the situation, then as the head of the Turkish delegation and the Vice President of the Congress, I can say that I share those concerns. In fact, the President of Turkey, the Prime Minister, Speaker of the Parliament, Minister of Justice, as well as the majority of the Turkish people share these concerns. This is why the Minister of Justice in Turkey is working hard, presenting reform packages to remedy the situation and to encourage a new mentality among the judiciary, which is in line with the European Court's case law and with the Council of Europe standards. Council of Europe already works closely with the Turkish authorities to that end. Most recently, on the 7th of March, the fourth juridical package was submitted to the Turkish National Assembly. It contains, among others, amendments concerning freedom of expression and a narrow definition of terrorism propaganda and the discrimination of non-violent acts and expressions. As the declaration before us today, although I believe that the Congress should not be involved in ongoing judicial matters, I respect that the Congress' right to express its concern. And I am sure that members of my Turkish delegation will agree with me as well. Nevertheless, I must note that with the certain parts of this draft declaration, I completely disagree. First of all, it is extremely disappointing to see that in this draft that the Congress deliberately refrains from taking a clear stand against a terrorism organization that has been causing suffering in my country more than 35 years. Secondly, I am having serious difficulties to understand why it exactly means considering an individual as a symbol, as suggested in paragraph 5b. The Congress is governed by the statutory resolution adopted by the Committee of the Ministers under the authority of the Statute of the Council of Europe. All the actions, deeds and the decisions of the Congress should be in line with the statutory documents. Although in the rules of the procedure there are a number of definitions, not even a single mention of considering an individual as a symbol exists. And finally, I believe that a fact-finding mission, as suggested in the paragraph 5a, could have been considered in the early stage of this issue addressed in this declaration. Today, however, while promising developments are taking place and such as ongoing dialogue to end terrorism, 4th reform packages to broaden freedom of expression by narrowing the scope of the definition of terrorism, the necessity of a visit is questionable. Please, my dear colleagues, refrain from actions that will weaken the constructive negotiations in Turkey. Thank you.
So, dazu Wort, ich erteile das Wort Herr Wienen von den Niederlanden. Mr. Wienen, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I can be very brief because much has been said. I think this declaration is not on terrorism or violence. It's not only about Ms. Guven, it's about the case of the big problem of local elected people from a national minority. And we have heard now from the Turkish delegate that well, there are positive signals, and this is also said in the declaration. And is that a reason not to have this declaration here? I don't think so. I hope that these positive steps will be followed and that very soon Ms. Guven, and not only Ms. Guven, but all the other mayors and councillors are free, and that the situation in Turkey will be much better. But this is not a reason to do nothing, but it is a reason for us to go on, to step forward, and to hope that we will reach in the end, and not only we, but all the people who are involved, to the situation that we wish, that all local representatives can do their work as they are elected.
Vielen Dank. That concludes the list of speakers. Mrs. KOOPMANSCHAP, do you wish to reply? Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for all the support of the several delegations. And especially I will thank Mrs. Sahin, the follower of Mrs. Laila Guven, for her speech and her contribution now. I also want to thank Mrs. Doganoglu because, well, she told us that she shares the concerns, as a lot of people do in Turkey. And in the meanwhile, there's a lot of work to do, and they are doing a lot of work to better the situation. And I think, like Jos Wienen said, let's take this declaration as a stimulation for everyone in Turkey, but also everywhere, to do the work to complete the message of the declaration we have here in front. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. KOOPMANSCHAP. The debate is now closed. We come now to the consideration of the draft declaration. The draft declaration is contained in document CG 2417. 2 amendments have been tabled. Amendment number 1, I call Mr. Oxkarsley from Turkey to present the amendment number 1. Please. 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dear members, my amendment is for deleting paragraph 5.a. A fact-finding mission could have been considered at the earlier stage of the issues addressed in this declaration. Today, however, while promising developments are taking place, such as ongoing dialogue to end terrorism, 4th reform package to broaden freedom of expression by narrowing the scope of the definition of terrorism, the necessity of a visit is questionable. In addition, in the next paragraph, another visit is already mentioned. Thank you.
Is there anyone wish to speak against? Then I call Mrs. KOOPMANSCHAP as a rapporteur. What is your opinion about this amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't want to delete this paragraph because it's our opinion that it's up to the monitoring committee to decide about the fact-finding mission if considered necessary. That's one of the functions of the Commission, and if we decide this way, I have to fully trust that the initiatives of the Commission will be taken in this way. Thank you.
Die Berichterstatterin lehnt den Vorschlag ab. Wir kommen nunmehr zur Abstimmung. Die Abstimmung ist geöffnet. Wer für den Abänderungsantrag ist mit Ja, wer dagegen ist, wie die Berichterstatterin mit Nein. (40 yes, 48 no, 5 abstentions. The amendment number 1 is not agreed. 58 are against. I call now Mrs. Yildiz from Turkey to present the amendment number 2.
Distinguished President, dear colleagues, my amendment is in draft declaration, paragraph 5b. I would like to say that I want to delete the expression whom the Congress considers a symbol of the imprisoned local elected representatives in Turkey. As Mrs. Doğanoğlu said before, there doesn't exist any single mentioning of considering an individual as symbol in any rules of procedure or any other rule of the Congress or Council of Europe. One can ask what exactly it means to be considered as a symbol, what criteria is required to be named as such, and what consequences it may lead to. Congress institutionally should refrain from getting involved into legally vague and subjective actions. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment? What is your opinion, Mrs. KOOPMANSCHAP?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't want to delete this part of the text because since some years Mrs. Laila Guven became a symbol of the Congress because of the situation she is in. That situation didn't change yet, so we want to leave this part in the text.
Wer für den Antrag der Abänderung ist im Sinne der Antragstellerin, stimmt mit Ja. Wer gegen die Streichung ist, wie die Berichterstatterin Frau KOOPMANSCHAP vorschlägt, stimmt mit Nein. Die Abstimmung ist eröffnet. The vote is closed. The result: in favor of the amendment 41, against 70, abstention 7. The amendment number 2 is not agreed. Vote on the draft declaration. I will now put the draft declaration to the vote. A simple majority is required. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 92 in favor, 21 against, abstention 5. The declaration contained in document CG 2417 is adopted. Combating social exclusion is the next item. I ask Mr. Michael O'Brien to take the chair.